few months ago, we had a chance to take a first look at Eibach Springs' new Jeep Wrangler all-terrain lift kit. The quality of the kit is impressive, but that came as no surprise. I have tested and raced on Eibach Springs for over 25 years, so I expected a first-rate package. But it is always a question mark concerning functionality, especially for off-roading. After that initial look, we were able to test the 3.5-inch lift on our 2009 Wrangler JK Unlimited Sahara. This is our team member Derek Akey's JK, which is nearly stock, with aftermarket bumpers, winch, wheels, and 35-inch BFG KM2 MT tires. The 3.5-inch lift is perfect for this combination with stock fenders. Before we get to the fun part of the test, let's talk about the Eibach all-terrain lift kit itself. Engineered using the same industry-leading spring and shock technology found in SCORE, CORE, NASCAR, and WRC racing, the all-terrain lift delivers maximum performance as well as improved response and control over rugged terrain while maintaining Eibach's class-leading street comfort characteristics. The Eibach all-terrain lift kit comes complete with everything needed for installation, including Eibach's all-terrain lift springs, which are precision engineered for better off-road capability and superior on-road stability and handling. The Eibach Pro Truck shocks that are built in the USA using nitro-coated rods, Maxima shock oil, and heavy-duty powder-coated bodies. Eibach's bump stops, adjustable end lengths, adjustable front track bar, rear track bar location brackets, and extended stainless steel brake lines. It also includes Eibach's million-mile warranty on the hardware and a 2-year warranty on the shocks. The heart of a suspension system is the springs. Springs perform 5 critical jobs. First, they keep the chassis and suspension from bottoming out over bumps. Second, they control the tires over bumps. Third, they control body roll during cornering, chassis squat during acceleration, and chassis dive under braking. Fourth, the springs must determine how the load on the tires shifts during braking, cornering, and acceleration. This is a major factor in establishing the neutral handling balance of a vehicle. And finally, the springs are the major factor in establishing the ride height or ground clearance of the chassis. For off-road use, the springs have a major workload requiring a series of compromises for a vehicle that is driven both on and off-road. If the spring rates are too soft, the ride is mushy on the highway. Too stiff and the ride off-road is too harsh. But the most important job of the springs is to keep the tires on the ground as much of the time as possible. For an off-road vehicle, this is easy on the highway and street, but off-road is another story. The axles must be able to articulate fully through bump and rebound travel over rocks. They need to control the movements of the tires over bumps, ruts, and washboard sections, and hoop-de-doos in the desert. To accommodate articulation, most off-roaders disconnect the sway bars for trail drives. This allows more vertical travel, helping keep the tire contact patches on the ground, a crucial factor for optimum traction over rocks on rutted climbs and slippery surfaces. When Jeep developed the JK for 2007, they spent considerable money and time working on the design. The stock JK has an excellent series of design compromises for ride comfort and off-road traction while still offering good on-highway performance. The only real issue was too little lift for serious trail work. After extensive testing, the Eibach engineers determined that the stock spring rates were very close to ideal, just too short for serious jeeping. So they engineered their springs to maintain near stock spring rates, but with a 3.5-inch in front and a 3-inch lift in the rear. They also have a 2-inch leveling kit for the less hardcore enthusiast. To assure the best compromise was made for the all-terrain lift kit, Eibach developed their own Pro Truck shocks for this application. Shocks play a major role for both off- and on-road traction and performance. To find a compromised set of valving rates is no easy feat. Shocks don't actually absorb shocks, but rather dampen vibrations. Shocks are more often called dampers for that reason, but we'll stick with shock absorbers as a matter of tradition. When the suspension on a vehicle moves, the shock is designed to control movements of the suspension, working in conjunction with the springs. The springs actually absorb shocks over bumps and control body roll. The shocks control the oscillations of the springs, determining how fast the spring moves up and down. Stiffer shock rates slow spring movements, while softer shock rates allow the springs to move faster. A shock is way too soft if it allows the springs to oscillate or bounce more than one full cycle. You've probably driven or even seen a car with worn shocks bouncing down the road after hitting a bump. A shock is way too stiff if the shock limits spring travel or causes the tire contact patch to bounce off the ground over bumps and ruts. A shock that is too stiff can cause the tire contact patches to bounce off the road surface or jack weight around in the vehicle after body roll occurs. This is a critical factor for articulation in extreme off-road applications. For an off-road situation, the shock needs to not only have adequate vertical bump and rebound travel, but the shock needs to assist the spring to keep the tire contact patches firmly on the ground surface. Low-speed valving must be perfect for rock crawling, while higher-speed valving needs to control the wheel and tire over small bumps, ruts, and washboard sections. And all of this needs to be done by the same shock used on the street and highway without destroying asphalt performance. So how does the Eibach JK all-terrain lift kit stack up? First, let's cover the highway performance. In a word, it is very close to the stock JK. Comfortable ride, good handling, slightly more body roll due to the lift, but with good handling characteristics even with 35-inch mud terrain tires. But you're not watching this for the highway performance. Off-road, the Eibach package is great. We did disconnect both front and rear sway bars to assure good articulation. We wanted to be able to see what the springs would do and allow, and how good of a job they did of keeping the tires planted on rocks. Derek Sahara is not yet fitted with axle lockers and is using the stock 373 gear ratios. We thought we may have traction issues on the Black Diamond Gold Mountain Jeep Trail in Big Bear, but we had no issues at all. In a couple of spots we had a little wheel spin, but overall crawling up the rock sections proved to be easy and articulation was excellent with the front and rear bars disconnected. Going down the steep drop-offs, articulation helped keep the vehicle stable and very controllable. Overall, Eibach has created a kit with superb compromises which pretty much mirror the original suspension design for the Jeep JK in 2007, but with adequate lift for 35-inch tires and great articulation. For Derek Akey, Tom Crost, and the Extreme Jeep and Crew, this is Don Alexander.